Hey everyone, today's video is going to be a quick one, but I'm going to go through the deadheading of sunflowers. So I'm going to take you through the why, the when, and the how, and then I'll actually bring you up close and deadhead one of the sunflowers in my garden. So starting off with the why. If you're familiar with gardening, you probably are familiar with the term deadheading, but basically what it means is to remove some of the spent blooms on your flowers. And it has a variety of reasons. So first is that when you're removing an old or spent flower, it's going to tell the plant to start producing more flowers instead of letting the older flowers go to seed. So if you want your sunflower to produce seeds, you can leave it on your plant. But if you want to focus on generating more flowers from your sunflower, go ahead and remove those spent blooms. Some other factors when it comes to deadheading, it can just make your plant look a bit more tidy so you don't have a bunch of old or leafless blooms on there. Just overall, it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing in the garden, but again, that's not a mandatory reason to do it. But also, and especially with sunflowers, if you don't want them spreading by going to seed and dropping around your garden, you also want to remove them. So sunflowers are kind of notorious for generating volunteer sunflowers in your garden, basically meaning seeds that are falling off your sunflower and planting themselves in your garden. I actually had a lot of volunteer maple trees trying to grow in my raised bed garden earlier this year. So if you don't want them spreading around your yard or your garden, not something I necessarily have to worry with quite as much in my container garden, then you'll want to make sure to remove those old or spent blooms as well. So that's kind of the why. What I'm going to do now is we're going to take a closer look at the sunflower I'm about to deadhead, and I'll kind of show you the signs that you know when it's time to remove some of those blooms. I wanted to quickly show you the sunflowers that I currently have in my garden. So I have 3 right here. There are 2 in this front grow bag and then 1 in the gray pot behind it. Initially, I was just going to grow the 1 in the gray pot here and then the other one over there with the blooms. But when I was planting multiple seeds per pot and then had to thin the seeds, I actually got too sad, so I just potted up the other 2 in these grow bags. And I'm actually really looking forward to it because I can't wait to just have a whole wall of sunflowers over here. Also have the dahlias right next to it. This is the plant I was planning on deadheading right now. Obviously, this bloom right here is the one that's ready to go. But if we get in really close, you can see somebody is still using it. So I'm going to keep it on the plant until they're done. I won't feel too bad removing it though afterwards because I mean they're going to have plenty of flowers to choose from. And actually this is the only of the sunflowers I just showed you, the other ones, that has bloomed so far. So I don't know if it's just, being a few feet away from the other ones on the deck, it just really likes it better over here. But at least now, while we're waiting for this little guy to finish up, we can kind of talk about the when it's time to deadhead your blooms. So, honestly, you can remove your blooms at any time. If I wanted to use some of these for a bouquet, I would remove them while they're still looking pretty good. This one obviously has lost a lot of its petals, so you'll notice the petals are going to start to lose some of their vibrancy. These are much more vibrant. It's a much duller yellow up there. They're going to start falling off. We had a pretty bad or heavy rainfall yesterday that knocked about half of them off, and then they've just been falling off ever since. If you have flowers that have been chewed by insects, you can go ahead and remove them, but again, it's really up to you. For me though, I don't want this one to go to seed yet, so that's why I'm going to take it off, just so that overall the plant will keep producing more and more blooms. Then near the end of the season, that's when I'll leave some of these on the plant so that I have seeds for next year. And also, just in case you're wondering, this sunflower variety is from Johnny's seed. So I did start it from seed. I'm trying to remember. No, I don't think I started any of my sunflowers indoors. I think they were all directly sowed because that's what was recommended on the packet. But it's from Johnny's seed and the variety is called Strawberry Blonde, which honestly is the perfect name for it, with the yellow leaves on the outside and then more red color towards the center. If you do have a multi-stemmed variety like this plant, you can also just choose to deadhead some of the weaker blooms in order to put more growth into the more vigorous blooms, but I really haven't had that many blooms yet to warrant sacrificing some of the smaller ones. As I mentioned, I'm going to leave some of the flower heads on the plant once I want them to go to seed near the end of the season. And once you do that, you'll basically leave them on the plant until their backs start to get yellow. So the back of the sunflower right there. Once that happens, then you can go ahead and cut the flower head off, leave about 12 inches of the stem on the flower, and then you can use garden twine or some other type of material to hang it in somewhere that's going to be dry, well ventilated, and that way it's going to allow the seeds to mature. So again, I will bring you back in order to show you how to deadhead once that guy is done. Alright, so our bee friend is now gone, so I am getting ready to deadhead this flower. What I'm actually going to do with it once I remove it is I'm going to poke a hole through the center of it and then hang it from a tree. I got that advice from one of my garden friends, and then that way the bees and the birds can still enjoy it even though it's not on your plant anymore. So let's talk a little bit about how to deadhead this flower. You can either use a sharp knife, scissors, pruners, which is what I'm going to use here. But whatever it is that you're using, you want to make sure that you have cleaned and sanitized it beforehand. If you are deadheading a plant, you want to make sure you're not spreading diseases from some sort of other plant, just to keep it as healthy as possible. So I usually, after every plant, rub mine with some rubbing alcohol pads, and then that way I know that I've disinfected it. So what you want to do, and since this one is a multi-branching sunflower, it's going to be a little bit different, but you basically want to look at the flower you want to deadhead, and then you'll go ahead and follow the stem down to the next lateral branch. So here's where the next flower branches out right there, so I'm going to snip right above here. Now this one isn't going to have a very long stem. Some might have longer stems than others. If it isn't a multi-branch sunflower, then you can just go down to the first set of leaves. But I want to leave this flower over here still on the plant, so I'm just going to cut it about an inch below where the flower is right now. So find where the lateral stem comes off. I'm going to go about a ½ inch above that and then just snip off the flower. So coming in here, ½ inch above, little snip, easy enough. So that's going to be everything for today's video. I hope you found the tips helpful when it comes to deadheading your sunflowers. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!